about the program. How do you want it to look, and what type of materials? What budget do you have to even work from? And some people get huge budgets, some don't. Also, what are you going to cost? All of those things you do not want to be doing the last month. It's just, you'll go crazy, and it's just not healthy. But you want to get those locked in that probably starting at 8 months prior, 9 months prior, and then by a month out, you have those details should not be consideration, because you're going to have things come up. You're going to have crises, like, oh no, someone can't speak, or oh gosh, the lanyards didn't come in, or oh, we were going to give out pens and the pens didn't show up. I mean, there's those things. So the thing that we really encouraged and we emphasized is start early, which is what we did. Get on a plan and have things set. You want to have things set in that at least 2 months before the concert, 1 month to 2 months before the conference.
That's an excellent overview, because that's a lot of what the students are learning are the components and the logistics and the organizing and the planning. So I think your insights are very helpful. If you were able to share anything about what you would do differently given your experience, can you think of, other than planning, any specifics that you could share?
Well, I think this is my own personal bias, but don't think of the food as an afterthought.
Food is important.
Food is very important. You don't want people to go and sit in a conference for 4 hours and you don't have anything, a snack available, or you don't have any beverages available. You want to make sure there's water. And as a dietitian, and I think it's appropriate that I'm speaking on this topic and why I am passionate about it, you do want to be selective in how you're going to offer food, and you want to make it healthful. You don't want to just offer, cookies and coffee, which is a common conference planning snack, because that's not the most conducive food for learning. By the time
Especially
they're
for
done,
your
you're like,
audience,
okay,
right?
we're done. No. So you do want to plan. You want to plan to think about the meals and snacks that are offered. Make sure water is available in every room. And I will say most locations, so most either the hotels or resorts that are used already have somebody available to help facilitate what to offer. But that's really if you're going to be using a high-end location. So if you're picking a big chain, I won't say any particular hotel, but if you were to pick a hotel chain, they've done a lot of conferences, so they kind of have it in place, and then they'll give you an option. Granted, each one costs money, so you're having to pick and choose in what you want to offer, but then at the same time, it adds up, and you could be looking at $36 a person a day, which you have to then go, okay, well then do I charge more for the conference fees, or do you do less on the food, or do you, how do you work it all out? And those are all questions, again, you have to do early on.
It was your goal to break even or to make a profit?
Break even is really a goal. It's hard to do, but to make a small profit is what you want to aim for. So the Idaho Dietetic Association really wants to break even, because we're smaller scale. We don't have a lot of other resources. We're limited to our access to locations and vendors, and it makes it a little bit more difficult. But for overall, many conferences, they want to have a little bit of cushion that brings them into the next year, so they can do things like marketing and planning ahead. And then a lot of the conference fees are helping to subsidize the conference itself.
Last question.
Yes.
If you were a student wanting to learn about conference and event planning, how would you go about getting experience, do you think? I mean, what's the best way? What advice would you give anybody wanting to learn how to do this?
My first recommendation would be look at your profession. If your profession does some type of hosting a conference, then get involved. And the reason I say choose your profession, because I could say, yeah, well, you can volunteer for the Idaho Dietetic Association, but you're really finding keynotes for that may not be of interest to you if you're not in the field. But there's a lot of different educational conferences. There's biology conferences. There's adult learning conferences. psychology conferences. I mean, there's conferences, they're all over the nation, and there's tons of them. So thinking in your respective area, what, and it could be as simple as if you're a part of an association, or even talk to a fellow faculty member.
Maybe.
Or an internship. You can talk to them and say, okay, what conference do you attend? And then latch on to how you might volunteer. And you can volunteer in many different ways. Even via distance, there's ways to volunteer. But there's things like, one conference I was involved of putting together how AV equipment would be organized. And so it was, putting together a check sheet on how to make sure every room had the appropriate AV equipment for the presenter that was going to be presenting for that particular conference. So that was something I didn't have to do right there. I could work on that, put it together, and then send it off. And you can do a lot of different things to volunteer, but I'd say just volunteer.
Find an opportunity.
Yeah, just volunteer and do it.
Get started. Nothing like doing it.
And they're not really, it's not usually paid. Unless you are, unless that's the specific job that you are wanting to pursue, 90% of the work done on conferences is on a volunteer basis.
So have some passion for
yes, that's why I said choose your profession, because it's not fun to be doing volunteer work for something that's not related to your field.
Well, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.